906 Outdoors is brought to you in part by Blades Bait and Tackle, your hardwater connection to Little Beatty Knock.
I visit the folks at White Sky Woods in Jacobsville to see what it's like to homestead in the Keweenaw.
I just look forward to the opportunity to just share our homesteading lifestyle with people.
And we'll take a look at trapping deer. 9 million acres of forest, 1,700 miles of continuous shoreline, 4,300 lakes, 12,000 miles of streams, more than 300 waterfalls, 15 counties, 2 time zones, and 1 area code. Welcome to the Upper Peninsula. Welcome to 906 Outdoors. .906 Outdoors is brought to you by Cooking Wild Seasonings. Make it fresh, make it yours.
We are surrounded by forests and water and untamed land. This is what lures visitors to our great peninsula and draws some to even move here. Case in point, Tim and Lisa, who moved to the Keweenaw Peninsula permanently in 2017 to live a homestead lifestyle and reconnect with the land.
We were just looking for some changes in our life. We had the typical 40-hour-a-week jobs, and we knew at some point in time that we wanted to pursue more of a homesteading lifestyle and self-reliant lifestyle. And we were formerly from Wisconsin. We were just looking for property. We had never actually been to the Keweenaw before, and the moment we walked out here in our snowshoes in February, we just knew it. We loved it. We knew it was meant to be ours.
Right now, the coolest thing going on in Jacobsville is White Sky Woods and their back-to-basics lifestyle, animals, and of course, their yurt.
We just found to be living in a yurt to be an awesome option for us. It was right in our price range, and it provided a unique home for us.
Yes, the yurt actually came as sort of a kit. Each of the wall panels came pre-built, and then the roof came with it as well. So that was helpful since I didn't have a lot of time all at once to come and work, because I was just working on a week of vacation a year. I would come up and work, or we would come up and work. Mm-hmm. So the second year was mostly just kind of building out the inside and getting the loft up and that kind of stuff. And then the third summer was getting the cabinets in and the plumbing all finished up and all that kind of stuff.
The thing I really liked about the yurt that appealed to me the most was the fact that in nature, nothing is square. One of the huge appeals for us was to be able to just live a lifestyle that was healthier, meaning providing the majority of our food, be it vegetables, fruits, and meats, and just knowing truly where our food came from and that it's organic. We have our garden, which is obviously to sleep right now for the winter, but we raise the majority of our own food here. I would say probably about 75% of the food that we eat is homegrown by us or raised by us. So one of the things that we decided we wanted to do when we first moved here was, since I would be coming out of the workplace, that I would start homeschooling the kids. We do have awesome opportunities to do things that we wouldn't have time to do as a family otherwise. Tim is working with the kids on a make it, build it sort of thing, and they have different projects that are ongoing. And one of the big projects that they worked on this year is the kick sled.
It's basically a chair on skis.
Flora and I planned how to do it and went through a couple iterations before we decided on something that seemed actually to work good.
We have to cut all our pieces of metal, make them the right sizes and all that stuff. And then we attach them to the skis and attach all pieces of metal together. And we put the chair on.
I feel like we have so many more life freedoms and having more family time and just being back in nature and back to the land. It just feels so good to be part of this.
.906 Outdoors is brought to you by Race Driven, your source for premier power sports products.
So the first 2 winters we were here, we used to have the animals out there. And after last winter, which was a really it was harsh is what we were told, we also felt that way. And we decided that we should move all the animals a little bit closer to us, which would prevent us from having to haul all the water out there and all the feed and everything. So this last spring and summer, we worked on kind of retrofitting our garage to be the animal area for the goats and the chickens. And then the calves are on the other side of the lean-to. And then back there we have the ducks and the rabbits as well. So that's been a huge help.
This is alder, and this is Juneberry. They're named after what they're hopefully eating. So Juneberry and alders.
Yeah, they just stay in here for winter time, just a safe place for them. Otherwise, they walk out to pasture every day on a lead. Last year, we had a buck goat here as well, and they were bred and they had some kids. Each of them had one. And then we milked them for a while, and it was pretty excellent. So they are hopefully both pregnant again, and we'll be expecting in May. So we'll have baby goats and fresh milk all over again. In summer, we'll sell duck eggs and chicken eggs to our neighbors and friends because we have a whole bunch usually in summer, but in winter they kind of take a break from laying.
And they all have names.
What are their names?
Well, this one here, she's black and she has white spots. She's kind of, yeah. Her name's Stella. She had a nest. And she had one little baby duck. Her name is JJ. She's gray, not like her mom at all. And then we have Blanche. She's the brown duck, the only brown duck right now. And then we got the two big gray ducks with white spots on their chests. They're Chase and Astrid. They're both Swedish Blues. And then I named these ones Speckled, and then I call one's Luna. She's one of the babies, and so is Speckle and Speckled. And then the other one I called Nancy. I don't know why, I thought it was a fun name for her. They lay eggs, and I personally like duck eggs better than chicken eggs. They're creamier to me, and they're bigger too. Sometimes we get a duck egg that's double yolked, and those are really big.
And then the rabbits, we usually have larger colony of rabbits in summer because it's easier for them to raise their babies and so forth then. But the rabbits are colony raised, which means they get to freely range through here and live more like a rabbit would want to than in a cage.
This is Dapple. She's one of our moms.
So we do sell meat rabbit as well, and that has been surprisingly, to me, a whole bunch of people have been interested in that. So that's been a pretty cool thing to be able to provide healthy local meats that's humanely raised to people that we know in the community. Rabbit meat tastes like the best chicken you'll ever have. It's basically just a very lean white meat, and you can prepare it just like chicken and pretty much any meal that you make. So we personally just like to put it in the crock pot because we're a busy family, and then meat falls off the bone and you have a wonderful shredded type of meat, and you can make like barbecue sandwiches with it or make soups with it or stews. It's really, really tender and good. So we keep the boys in the hutches. This one is Tracker. He's the father of most of the babies. Hey buddy, come on over. The calves are about 9 months old right now. Even though they're technically training to be oxen, they won't be oxen till a couple of years from now. That's just more of a term for when they reach maturity. And so in the meantime, they're calves, or working steer is what they'd be called. And we had a really bad storm here in November, and lots of trees came down. So we're excited for the spring thaw so we can get out there and just start cutting up wood and have them hauling our timber for us.
Come up.
In summer, they were training every day, but in winter it's been a little more challenging because the road can get kind of slick and the fields aren't available. So we train every couple days in winter. But I was amazed at how smart they are. We have zero experience raising cows or any animals before we made this life transition. So it's been pretty cool to just see how intelligent and responsive they are and how much they really like to work.
Today's show is brought to you in part by Rapid River Knife Works, home of Michigan's largest custom knife factory showroom.
Tim and Lisa's homestead is in Jacobsville, on the southeast corner of the Keweenaw on the mouth of the Portage Canal. Jacobsville is known for the sandstone quarries that provided building material for many of the Copper Country's buildings. This sandstone also made its way to many cities on the East Coast. One of the things Lisa and Tim love about their property is that history scattered about their 240 acres, and they enjoy sharing it with others.
This trail is unique. It's not a winding through the woods sort of trail. But what makes it unique is that it has a pretty big history to it. As far as we understand, this railroad grade used to haul out Jacobsville sandstone, which is what Jacobsville area is known for. There's not a lot going on here now, and there's no active sandstone quarries, but 120 years ago, there were people out here actively quarrying sandstone. And it's just really neat to walk on here and think like, who's coming down this trail and what were they hauling and where was it going? What building did it end up being in? It's hard to see in winter, but we actually have sandstone all along the side on this trail. That was probably just scrap stone that wasn't of any value. And so you can kind of see history as you walk through it. To the best of our knowledge, that's a hill of scrap. So kind of like what a rock pile would be from the copper mines, the poor rock. What we believe is underneath that is poor rock sandstone. We have multiple of those around on this property. And what probably happened is they dumped a pile, kept dumping on it, and then progressively it leads right to the quarry. Here is one of the quarry ponds that's on our property. We know it's a quarry pond for 100% certainty because we've read about it in books, but also straight back that way, which we're intending to put a trail to, there are massive slabs of sandstone that have been cut out and stacked, and then I don't know if the market fell out or what happened, but they got left behind for whatever reason. But it's pretty cool. A lot of them have kind of toppled over a little bit, so there's some cool crevices over there. But we do love coming out here in summer and just relaxing and listen to the quiet of it all. You literally cannot hear traffic back here, and to me, that's probably the perfect thing.
As part of our snowshoe tour, we did a little foraging to make some tea.
And one of our favorite things to harvest is the spruce needles, or pine needles work great too. And we've made spruce needle tea and pine needle tea, and then spruce needle cookies as well. And it has kind of, to me, almost like a citrusy flavor. So we will pick some of this and we can head inside and warm up a little bit and have some fresh tea. And the benefit of the spruce is a high quantity of vitamin A and vitamin C. And as with any sort of harvesting we do out in nature, we always make sure we pick only a sustainable amount, although we have lots of spruce. I wouldn't want to come pick too much off this tree. And then I always say thanks, because what a cool thing that nature is able to provide us. So let's go have a taste. I'm going to go ahead and put our spruce needles. I collected a few pine ones as well. So we're going to load up this pot. And so people often ask, like, how much should I put in? Well, I don't measure this. I kind of just pick and put it in, and then I steep it for a couple minutes. If it's a little strong, I just water it down a little bit more. If it needs more, I'll add more once I've been having it steeped for a while. It's not like I'm using this medicinally, so I don't worry so much about it being a specific type of... I can smell it already just having poured the water on that. So we'll let those steep for a couple minutes, and then we'll give it a try. I just look forward to the opportunity to just share like our homesteading lifestyle with people who maybe have an interest in it or just want to see what that life is like.
If you're interested in learning more about White Sky Woods, their homestead, or taking a guided snowshoe tour, visit their website, whiteskywoods.com.
906 Outdoors is brought to you in part by Christ, your Northwoods neighborhood store. A big part of the overall deer story is deer management, and in some cases, deer management includes deer trapping. Well, here's a look at how that happens.
All right, so these are Stevenson box traps that we're using to capture the deer. Pretty simple setup. They're kind of heavy to move. Usually they typically take 4 to 5 people to get them to move. We've got doors on both ends. One of the ends has a wire mesh on it because we don't want the deer going this end, yet we want the deer to be able to see through so they feel a little bit more comfortable to go into it. So that we want them to go on the other end. They've got drop doors on both ends on pulley systems and a string on the outside. So this is our trigger system on it. It's a pretty simple design where it just hooks underneath with a trip wire on the inside. So the side doors on it is for what we call as a squeeze box. When we get a deer inside, we'll check through the look hole here or through under the door here to kind of determine before we start them on the sex and age of the deer we have. And then we'll push a squeeze box up to this, and it has a little door on the end that will open up so that light can see through, and we'll pull this door off and the end of the door on the squeeze box, and the deer will see that light and it'll tend to go in there. Some are a little bit difficult. They don't want to go in there, but for the most part, they've been pretty good. So on the inside here, this is our main trip wire going across to that trigger on the outside. Here we also run fishing line up and down. We'll either run it this way or kind of in a W pattern. That way when a deer comes in here, it can either hook this with its feet, or when it gets its head in here, it might hook some of this fishing line. Just makes it a little bit easier and a little bit quicker to catch them. We do use a little bit of alfalfa and just a little bit of corn to get them in here. There's no other way for us to get them in here to set off this trigger. So they'll come in because they can see through. They'll come in and they'll start pawing at some of the alfalfa and the corn, and they'll set this tripwire off. And when they pull that, it activates the trigger on the outside, and both doors will fall.
So when we first get to a trap and see that the doors are down, what we'll do is we'll go see what we've actually caught. We'll see if it's an adult or fawn, and then we try to identify if it's a male or female as well. And if it's a deer that we need to collar, then we'll bring out the capture box, or the squeeze box as we call it, and put that up against the side of the box and try to encourage the deer to get inside that box. Once we get it in there, we're able to weigh the deer. And then when we have weighed the deer, we can actually pull the deer out of the box.
Got him. Pull it.
And we have 2 people grab a hind leg, 1 person will grab the front legs, and then another person will grab the head. And finally, another person will pull the box away and use the piggin string to bind the back legs together, while one of the people can then hobble the back legs, hobble the front legs, and then we'll hobble the front and back legs together so that the deer is restrained. So once the deer is restrained, then we're able to get some morphometric measurements such as right hind foot measurement, chest girth, and then we also measure the neck circumference at the base of the neck and right behind the skull, and that gives us a better idea for collar fit and to identify and compare deer between different study areas across the West UP. We also take body condition scores, so we can look at the deer's body condition as winter progresses, and again compare that between study areas and then between years as well to see what kind of condition that these deer are in. We'll give them a shot of antibiotic, and that helps with any of the capture process, any of the stress they may receive during the capture process. We also take a hair sample, and we give ear tags, so 1 tag in each ear with an individual identifier. And then finally, if we're going to collar it, then we'll put a collar on, and depending on the sex or the age of the animal, we'll put on a specific collar for that deer. There she goes. Nice. So the UP Deer Movement Study is a project that's a partnership between the Michigan Department of Natural Resources and the State University of New York College of Environmental Science and Forestry. And what the main focus is we're looking at deer movements and risk of deer coming in from Wisconsin or crossing from Wisconsin into Michigan and Michigan back into Wisconsin through summer and winter migrations. And we're also interested in looking at movements of deer from dispersal events, whether that's buck fawns or doe fawns. And we're also looking at exploratory movements, whether that's bucks during breeding season or does doing late season movements outside of their home ranges.
So we know a lot about deer movement in the UP region because it has been studied previously. Something a lot different about this particular project is the technology that is in the collars that we put on the deer.
So these GPS collars have a battery life that lasts 3 to 5 years, and they'll take a location every 13 hours. And it has an internal antenna for the GPS, and that GPS will connect to the satellite network and take a location. And then once a day, it will connect to that satellite network and send those 2 locations back to us via a web service where we're able to access the GPS data and look at the deer movements in live time. And then it also has a VHF antenna, and that way we can track the animal on the ground and we can monitor if it has a live signal or a mortality signal from that VHF signal as well.
And so we're able to have a lot more information about these day-to-day movements as well as seasonal movements. And of course, those long-range dispersal movements. And again, that's all going to strengthen our ability to make management decisions as it relates to disease. It'll also inform our regular deer management decisions as well.
He ran off really well.
Feel free to join us on Facebook or visit us at 906outdoors.com. And while you're there, be sure to sign up to get on the 906 Outdoors email list. We'll send you an occasional email with tips, recipes, and more. You'll also be eligible for giveaways just for being on the list. Thanks for watching, and we invite you to join us next week for another adventure right here on 906 Outdoors.